Holy crap, it's real!
So, coming off a video which will be releasing very shortly, revolving around the live-action Smurf movies, I get news of a live-action My Little Pony in the works at MGM/Amazon. Of course it's MGM.
When I grow up, I want to stick my head through a circle at the beginning of movies and...
At present, all the information that we have is that this movie exists. Everything I could find, it's just one of those articles that's like, a movie is happening, and gives a backstory on the studio and the franchise. The response I've seen on places like Twitter is a collective, huh? And people mad at Hollywood for tainting yet another beloved property. And people have already had ideas on what this is gonna be. I've had my own ideas on what this movie's gonna be, if it gets further in production. Until more info gets revealed, names attached to the movie, story, designs, the only things we can do are speculate and predict. So, today, we will. Today, I want to talk about the live-action MLP film, a few different ideas of what the actual movie might be like, similar movies, and how this one could take inspiration from them, how it might resonate with audiences, and whether it would be good or not. I think you can tell what the answer to that last one would be. There is a well-established formula for live-action movies based on beloved cartoon shows. If you grew up in the 2000s or 2010s, you've probably seen a lot of these: Alvin and the Chipmunks, Garfield, the Smurfs, Yogi Bear, Casper, Rocky and Bullwinkle, Underdog, Woody Woodpecker, Tom and Jerry. Even the Sonic movies count, even Hop counts, which isn't even based on anything. All these movies have the same beats, or at least most of them do. CGI cartoons fall in with a live-action human or humans. They clash at first, resulting in some funny hijinks before forming a bond through more wacky adventures. Usually, the cartoons are hunted by an over-the-top, goofy villain, ideally played by a human actor, for most, if not all of it. Things happen, dance party ending, movie over. I think this is most likely the route they're gonna take when they do MLP. Smurfs might be the closest comparison you can make. Maybe the Sonic movies too, but I'll talk about those later. My prediction for the plot: the ponies are gonna be living in their own pony world, and they're gonna be chased into the real world, either by the villain or some other thing, like they have to find some magic thing in our world or whatever. Get them to the real world, they meet a real person. My guess, it might be a lady this time around, maybe make it different. That's the main thing they're gonna do. It'll be Smurfs, but with a lady. Maybe it'll be a blonde woman named Megan or whoever. They're a practical person, right? And they have a boring adult job to do. Maybe they're a vet. Maybe they work with horses in some way. Either way, the ponies get in the way because they're all happy, sunshine, and rainbows, and they like to bake cupcakes and sing and stuff, which of course clashes with our cynical, real-world protagonists, very much like Enchanted. I know we all think of Smurfs as the blueprint, but you also have to think about Elf, starring Will Ferrell, and I don't have anything against that movie. I think it's a modern classic, but you can't tell me that a lot of the fish out of water stuff in that film is what we'd be getting in this. And again, Enchanted, which I just... And as for the cast of ponies, I'm really unsure what they're gonna do. They might try to bank on G4 nostalgia and have the main six, or maybe a whole new cast, or a mix, like how they adapted certain characters from G3 to G4, or whatever the Camp Cutie Mark thing was gonna be. There's definitely gonna be ones with similar traits to the main six: a Twilight, Sunny, a Pinky, Izzy, a Rainbow, or Zip. And the look of the ponies is something I'm not too sure of either. I hope they do try and make them look appealing, like when they changed the Sonic designs, but with these sorts of films, you never really know. This is really just personal preference, but I'd prefer if they try to stick closer to the Lauren Faust or Andy Price look for the characters with the big eyes and sleeker proportions. I'm just not a fan of the softer features that they had in the recent shows, and a lot of fan art too. It would also be fun to make them look like real ponies, sort of do an Alvin and the Chipmunks thing where they look and move more like the actual animal, but are still recognizable as silly cartoons. The art for those crossover toys they did, like with Transformers and Ghostbusters, might actually be a good blueprint. You know, these are supposed to look like the G1 toys, but have a G3 look too. Anyways, for the villain, I personally could see them doing two things. Either have it be some magical creature from the pony world who turns human as a disguise to save money on CGI and have a recognizable face, or a scientist or some dude in the real world who wants to dissect the horses, or make the villain a brony and just have it be the Lenny Baxter episode of Powerpuff Girls. That would be good. I think you could get some good laughs from like a general audience out of that. For that other option of the magical creature, it would be great to see a villain from G4 come back. Either Discord or Queen Chrysalis. Chrysalis seems like a no-brainer. You could very easily have her disguise herself as a human with some lady character actor or whoever who could do Hank Azaria's shtick from the Smurf movies, or something similar. Think Bette Midler in Hocus Pocus. In fact, they could just go with her, especially if they want to make this a musical. I don't want to have that locked in per se, but it is MLP, and the trend leans more towards musical than not musical. musical. Discord would be amazing. There may or may not be enough money in the world to get John Delancey back, but if they're going for star power instead of fan service, I really think, and you can tell me in the comments if this is out of order, but after seeing Wicked, I'm convinced Jeff Goldblum could be a great Discord. He would just be the character he plays in those movies, but a little goofier, and maybe with that sort of fish out of water angle of him not understanding human social norms. From a general audience perspective, I think he could be a draw to it the way Jim Carrey is for Sonic. And if not him, then, you know, somebody else who could do that. For some reason, I thought of Michael Keaton too. What's more important, folks, is who's Awkwafina gonna play? And that's not a matter of if she's gonna be in the movie or not, mind you. She already signed the contracts. In all seriousness, she could be fine as maybe the Rainbow Dash type character if they leaned into her being hyperactive. As for other plot elements, you know there's gonna be that part in the third act where the main character, Human, tells the ponies to scram and everybody's sad. But then the Human finds a cake that one of them baked for her, and she realizes that friendship is magic. And this seems to be a trend with these sort of films. If they give the movie a specific setting like New York or some other major city out in the South or Southwest, you know, because horses, you know, set in Louisville, I can imagine a lot of jokes based on that, like them in the subway or famous landmarks or what have you. Because we in the US, we love our city humor. And any sort of action climax would have the ponies being chased down through some iconic landmark like Lombard Street or the Space Needle or the Chicago Bean or the Citgo sign. And as for specific details, that's really all I can say based on what we all think this movie is going to be and based on the very limited information we all have. Knowing the movie's budget would definitely help give an idea of who's going to be in it and what it's going to look like. For the cast, I imagine they'll try and get 1 or 2 A-listers or some recognizable names. What the cast looks like will depend on if this is a streaming movie or a big theatrical release. I'd like to entertain the idea of the plot being human characters who go into the pony world, but that would mean a lot of very expensive special effects. To give you an idea, the Minecraft movie cost around $150 million, not including the marketing budget, which would probably double it to around $300. That's a lot of money. I don't really know if Hasbro is in the position to shell out that much for a property whose last iteration didn't do as good as I think they wanted it to. However, it might be worth the risk for MGM since My Little Pony is a very similar property to Barbie, whose movie had a budget around Minecraft's and made over $1 billion. So that's another angle they could go at it from, to make it like Barbie, to try and age it up with some commentary or a message about gender. I think I said a few years ago after Barbie came out, a live-action MLP with some sort of meta commentary on bronies could be Hasbro's answer to that. I mean, depending on who's in charge, that might be a little too heavy for the brand to go all in on a Barbie-esque story, but you could have a healthy medium. Do funny talking animals, but try to elevate it a little. Or another idea I had, they could get like a John Cena type for the main human and have that be the draw, that the ponies are hanging out with a macho man. You know, they clash and you can market that. Or just get a main guy who looks tough. Or make him a cowboy or a rancher or something. I'm giving you guys so many free ideas, Hasbro. And Amazon, MGM. Oh, and you have to have the scene where another character comes up to the main guy or girl or whoever, and he has to introduce the pony characters because, you know, they got found out. And the other character wants an explanation. And then the main guy is like, these are my, little ponies. And then you put that in the trailer. Another thing they could take from Barbie, and I've hammered this home, I feel like in videos before, is to get someone who has a creative idea or style, get a writer-director who can leave their footprint on the film, like writer-director Greta Gerwig did with Barbie, or like Minecraft with Jared Hess. A lot of people I saw turned around on that movie, thinking it looked crap, but then having a good time with it, because it had such a distinct sense of humor, and because other people on the team, like Jack Black, were let loose to have fun. If they have the right stuff in this, and if Hasbro and MGM Amazon play their cards right, this could be huge. There is a precedent for this type of movie to make money, and be well received by a general audience. Live-action CGI hybrids based on beloved cartoons make bank, or even ones based on vaguely recognizable characters, like how Sonic was before the movies came out.
The biggest movie in the world 2 years prior now held less cultural relevance than, like, Sonic the Hedgehog.
Gen Z might not be the richest generation, but we are all grown up with money to spend, and movie studios pay attention to that sort of thing. And FIM is old enough where there's some nostalgic value to it, and it's popular all over the world. It's fondly liked in the US and Canada, Latin America, Asia. China is a very big country with a lot of people, and a lot of people who like MLP. This seriously could be really big. In a few years, the blue toy aisle could be all live-action Sonic, and the pink aisle could be all live-action MLP. Just saying. And that's not me saying I think this movie's gonna be amazing. I'd be glad if it was good, or had something to say, or was especially funny, or had good directing and art design, but I think it's just gonna be an average family movie. It's not gonna reinvent the wheel, but I also couldn't see it winning a Razzie or anything. So get up every morning when you look in the mirror and say to yourself, it's gonna be okay. Not life in general, you know, that too, but the live-action My Little Pony movie, it's gonna be okay. The worst it's gonna be, realistically, is annoying. And there are a lot of things nowadays that are annoying, so whatever. And I'm sure it'll have its fans. I'm not the biggest fan of the Sonic movies, but I know that there are a lot of people who latch onto the human characters and their relationships with the silly animals. G5 too. I don't have many nice things to say, but a good portion of MLP fans still really liked it. The knee-jerk reaction is that it's gonna be crap, but I'm cautiously optimistic, as they say. My main hope is that it gets MLP out of the doldrums it's been in for the past year or so. You know, MLP and Transformers are sitting down right now talking about life, and MLP's like, yeah, I'm just kinda in between generations right now, you know? But let me know your thoughts. What do you see happening with the live-action MLP film? And drop your fan casts in the comments, please. I've been Shunks, and until next time, don't touch my pizza. Or my jelly.